Hi everybody, welcome. It is Kelly Anderson and you're watching a story of complicated kindness here on Equality TV's vlog. I encourage you to pay attention to Equality TV because we are a couple weeks shy of launching our Indiegogo campaign. And this commercial really is the first time people can see the potential of Equality TV. We have some great new show content, we have some great ideas circulating that will go from your local neighborhood to the global realm, and we have some really interesting people that I feel like will be not only inspirational but a great avenue of change for all of us, whether we meet them in person or just listen to their voice. So please pay attention in the next couple weeks and continue being our allies and supporting us, because I promise you will not be disappointed. If you remember last week, I introduced this concept of wearing a mask, and wearing a mask distorts the reality of who you truly are. So the examples that I came up with were when you go on a job interview or when you meet someone for the first time, we may be a little bit more polite, we may be someone else because we're trained to fit a certain image. Now this may be something that we're completely aware of. We know we have to act this way when the CEO walks in the room versus like our boss who we've hung out with before. This also may be subconsciously embedded in us, and because we've been trained so often to be someone out of respect for your elders or the position that you're applying for, whatever the case may be. But the question I really started asking was, which image are we? Which mask is our true self? Is it the one when we're sitting on the couch just hanging out and talking with our closest friends? Is it the first impression that we give to people? I believe that we can have several different masks, but I think it's interesting when you check out your own life and see how different you are. Which group do you tell the most jokes with? Which group do you sit back and listen to the stories rather than tell the stories? Really examine who you are and see how many different personalities you can play with. It's quite interesting. But what I left you with was a prompt of the mask that we wear during conflict. So the mask of resentment and how that can really affect our daily lives when we're upset with someone. My example was that it not only affects your mind, body, and spirit, but everybody else around you, and that's not fair. So I asked the question to you and I got some great response, but I wanted to know, how can we heal? How do we get past this mask, and how do we just be better people rather than letting this thing dwell and affect us for the time being? So I have some notes. I'm quite excited. So Brittany Pickler is one of my students at Long Beach, and if you remember, I work in a performance troupe that uses theater and therapy techniques to instigate conversation, and the performance techniques really initiate a new dialogue of better reality. Thus the prompts that I'm working with here. Anyways, I asked my students, and some people, even though they work in this avenue of social change, they were really stumped by the question, which I think is fair because we don't always have to have the answers. Well, one of my students, Brittany, said so casually, I like to solve other people's problems. And I was interested by that because I thought she was deflecting what the subject matter is. And she goes, sometimes you can't change people. Sometimes they're just going to be jerks, and there's nothing you can do. No matter how old you are and how mature you may be in the situation, there's nothing you can do. So I rather feel better about myself and go help someone else's problem. And what she does is, if you type in like ask.com and you're like, how do I paint the shutters without cracks or something like that, and she knows that, or it's a skill that she has, she'll type in an answer. And I said, well, how do you benefit from that? And she goes, because it's unknown. Who knows if anybody's gonna enjoy that comment? I never really return. I don't need a response or validation, but if someone does get help out of it, then I did a good thing. And I loved that. It was just so pay it forward without reaping the benefits. So thank you, Brittany. I thought that was a great one. And again, she didn't need to get a response. It was just something that she felt better and her heart felt great doing. Another one was to take a deep breath and immediately do something that makes you smile. So for instance, my fiance and I just got engaged. And I love going on Pinterest. I always have. But when I go into Pinterest and I like plan the wedding and I imagine these different events that I can plan, it clears my mind. It gives me a break from everything, and it really does make me happy, and I can zone out. I don't think about anything else, and I may never use these crafts or these recipes, but the idea is that I'm doing something that makes me happy. It relaxes me is the number one thing, because I feel like I can do it in the future. I don't know, or like the pictures, who knows. But immediately doing something that takes me out and sheds that mass of frustration really clears not just your head, but your soul, your whole body. And I don't feel as heavy when I'm doing something that makes me happy. Another one was my neighbor, his 7-year-old boy named David, who was so sweet. And I think he really had one of the best ideas. He said, "You need to be honest." And I said, "Well, what's honest mean, David?" And he goes, "You say, you hurt my feelings, but I still want to be your friend." And I was like, "That's it?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's it." And then later on, I started thinking, that's perfect. You put yourself out there, you don't have to go into full details, and then you said this, and then you hurt my feelings, and then you stopped making eye contact, and then why don't you just say, it hurt my feelings, but we'll get past it. I want you to be my friend. You're gonna be in my life. It just sets the tone, and I realize how much we need to give credit to our kids, because they're more intelligent than we think. Their street smarts are so different because they listen with their heart and they use their emotions, and they're not embarrassed to say or save face. So I thought that was great, and maybe in the next couple of weeks, we'll create something that really talks to kids and hears their opinions. Also, something you'll be seeing on Equality TV. I'll leave you with this last one, and it was somebody that I met in my grad school program. And remember, it's the same concept, using theater to use art and heal. And one of the ideas was to write a list. So I have a list here of Stacey. Stacey will be my mock example. Stacey was you think of one situation, she was selfish, irresponsible, flaky, and rude. And so you have these moments where you get to vent, and it's out there. But then here's the trick. You don't just hold on to that, and you don't just keep this ball and think of Stacey as this only person. The trick is, let me write this down, to add you to the list. So when have I been selfish, irresponsible, flaky, and rude? Because Stacey is human. She makes mistakes. I make mistakes. I'm not any better than Stacey. And I can assure you that there's been a time that I've offended someone, and whether I noticed it or I didn't want to suck it up and apologize, I've been those qualities. Humanizing each other, I think, is a huge concept that we need to bring back into our daily lives. And if I learned anything, it was from my 7-year-old neighbor, that you need to just get over it. You need to do something, you can be validated and move on. But holding on to that anger, you'll never be able to tear that mask off. And that's the whole point, is to be a better person, to be happier. So thank you everyone for putting those ideas out there. And please send me as many more as you want. Let's keep this dialogue going. And I hope you have a great day, everybody. And we'll see you next week. Take care.